Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. This is my gut reaction to Nebraska's road win on Friday night in Champaign, Illinois. I believe their stadium is also called Memorial, although it was not on fire tonight, so that was good to see. At least not offensively, but Nebraska's defense played well, but I'll get to all of that. Okay. Matt Rhule's first Big Ten win. The Huskers get to 3-3. They're 500 going into the bye week. Okay. Now, a couple of things real quick. Matt Rhule said, you're going to find out about our team this week, this Friday night at Illinois. He said, you're going to find out about me as a coach. You're going to find out about us. I was like, man, that's a bold statement to make. Because what if it doesn't go well? That could really blow it back in your face. But I tell you what, there was a lot of ugly. But here, at the end of the day, Nebraska won. Nebraska won by double digits. I felt like we were clearly the better team. Okay, and I know there was a lot of ugly throughout this game, but I really felt like we were the better team. We just got to get better at so many freaking little things that add up over time to big things, and we saw that over and over throughout the game tonight. But I digress. I keep getting ahead of myself. What I would like to do, actually, is I'd like to personally thank the defense for their performance in the game tonight, okay, and throw the bones early on. And if you agree with me, smash that like button. Also, shout out and rest in peace to Dick Butkus, an Illinois great, a Chicago Bears great, College Football Hall of Famer, NFL Hall of Famer as well. Now, here are my notes throughout the game, okay? Ole Miss transfer quarterback Luke Altmaier had 5 touchdowns, 7 INTs coming into this game, and they had a makeshift offensive line Illinois is really working with. Now, Illinois' first offensive drive, 14 plays, 74 yards. It took 6:10 off the clock. Converted 2 third downs right off the bat, and I talked about how important third downs was going to be in this game for Nebraska, for Illinois, stopping each other, converting them. Okay, Illinois was only converting 32% of their third downs on the season coming in to tonight. Man, I was like, man, we don't look great. It almost looked a little too easy, but I tell you what, the turning point in the game might have come early on in this drive. 3rd and goal from the 6-inch line. Boom, denied. 4th and goal from the 6-inch line. Boom, denied. The Blackshirts made a statement early on. And I don't know, I felt like that kind of turned the tide just a little bit early on, because that first drive did look easy for Illinois, and then the rest of the game, they really struggled. I know they had the long touchdown pass later on. Okay. Now, again, I have written here, it says, set a great tone for the rest of the game. All right, now, we completed our longest completion of the year, to get out of the end zone. Heinrich Harburg, a 39-yard pass to senior wide receiver Marcus Washington. He got hurt later in the drive. Hopefully his knee is okay. We don't have any details at this point. You know, I had some notes here. We got to work on pitching the ball in the option, and we did execute it later on in the game a couple times, but he looks like he really doesn't want to do that, Heinrich Harburg. We got to be able to do that. Otherwise, you're playing 10 on 11, so to speak. You might as well turn the running back into an extra blocker, but we were able to do that later on in the game, at least just a little bit. Now, the Huskers go 86 yards, take 6:05 off the clock, get deep into Illinois territory. Tristan Alvano, converts the field goal. His second made field goal of the year, puts us up 3-0. There was a Malachi Coleman sighting. He actually got a decent amount of plays tonight. Maybe that was due to the Marcus injury. Again, speedy recovery him. Maybe that's because Coleman's getting ready. We know he's uber talented. I was just excited to see him out there. We'll see how he develops, grows, and improves. Now, with about 6.5 minutes left in the second quarter, all right, Nebraska, 14 plays, 79-yard drive, 6:38 off the clock. Touchdown run by Anthony Grant puts the Huskers up 10-0. Then the Huskers recover. This was a crazy theme throughout the night. The defense would get a turnover. The special teams would force a turnover. We'd have a short field, and then we wouldn't capitalize anywhere near enough, but I'm getting ahead of myself again. All right, the Huskers recover a fumble on the ensuing Illinois kickoff return. All right, first play, we actually convert this. 25-yard touchdown run by Heinrich Harburg on an option play, okay? Did not need to pitch on this one. 17-0 Nebraska with 6:37 left until halftime. Now, Illinois had won the previous 3 meetings coming into tonight, okay? Their first drive, like I mentioned, 14 plays, but their next 3 drives combined was 9 total plays, 3 straight 3-and-outs. But this is where they did hit the 46-yard touchdown pass to make it 17-7 at halftime to just keep it interesting, I guess. Maybe that's what the Huskers were doing at times tonight. Now, I did feel like we actually had some calls go our way. Okay, I felt like the ball was actually bouncing our way, at least early on. Okay. Sometimes you got to make the ball bounce your way. Sometimes you make it bounce the other way. Things we got to improve on. But at halftime, here are the stats that stood out to me. Both teams had exactly 10 first downs apiece. We started to own the time of possession, and by the end of the game, we dominated it by 15 minutes. We had the ball 15 more minutes than Illinois, but we had the ball 17-18 to Illinois' 12-42 at halftime. Third down efficiency. Illinois at that point in time was 4 of 8, 50%. We were 2 of 7. Fourth down efficiency, I think Illinois ended up the night 1 of 4. Okay. And we were 1 of 1 at halftime. Total yards at that point in time, we were 196. They had 185. Okay. Pass yards, we had 120. They had 160. We gotta help Harburg with his throwing motion. When I watched him as a true freshman, he didn't throw like this. And I know Rule said it's hard to change a guy's throwing motion at this point in time, but he's still a young guy. We gotta improve his throwing motion. It is possible. I pitched. I was a quarterback. I know how this works. It is possible. It just takes time. During the season might be challenging. That is a fair point. But it's something I do think that would help him because he didn't throw like this as a freshman. The first time I saw him, and he caught my eye years ago. Now, rush yards at halftime, we had 76. They had 25 yards per rush. We had 3.6. They had 1.7. At halftime, neither team had any turnovers. I'm sorry, Illinois had one. But as we know, that changed as the game went along. Final halftime thoughts. Offense. Pass the ball less, run the ball more. That's all I wrote. Defense, okay, less three-man rushes. And what they were doing was a three-man rush with a spy. So when the quarterback would take off, one of our linebackers would chase him down. But it was really only a three-man rush. Okay, and if he didn't take off, you're kind of wasting that spy, so to speak. I wanted more 4- and 5-man Russians. Illinois' offensive line is really not very good. Now, real quick, before we get too much further, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, okay, DPS Concrete Construction. If you are a diesel mechanic, CDL driver, or concrete finisher and looking for work in the Omaha metro area, DPS Construction is the employer for you. Again, that's DPS Concrete Construction. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. Now, it did look like Illinois' offensive line was holding quite a bit, but let's be real. When is that stuff ever called? An observation of mine that refs are never going to pay attention to, unfortunately. I have torn game jerseys from my playing day that would back up what I just said. All right, special teams actually, I wrote pause for effect. Is actually an advantage for Nebraska, at least, the field goals that we didn't make later on, might not back that up. But early on, special teams was an advantage for us. All right, now about 5 minutes into the third quarter, Illinois' turnover turns the ball over on their side of the field. Nebraska, another made field goal from Tristan Alvano. And I wrote at this point in time, maybe this can get him going. Again, we know how things played out down the road. Nebraska's up 20-7. Now, up to this point, the key plays were Blackshirts' 4th down stop on the 6-inch line, a fumble recovery by our special teams, which led to a touchdown, a turnover forced by the Blackshirts. And the Huskers at this point had 10 points off of turnover, plus 7 points that Illinois didn't get. This was a 17-point swing at that point in time. Also, Illinois just hasn't had the ball much. Now, we had a point where we had 3 straight possessions later on in the game where we started with the ball inside of Illinois' 30-yard line, basically in their red zone, and we had a missed field goal, we had turnovers, we had false starts out the wazoo. As the game wore along, we got sloppier and sloppier. We should have put this game away. It shouldn't have been close. It was like we just felt the need to keep fans engaged or something. I'm entertained if we win by 4 or 5 touchdowns. It's okay. It's allowed, guys. I'm just saying. Okay. Right then, Nebraska blocked an Illinois punt. Again, the Huskers start with the ball on Illinois 22-yard line. Okay, and this is where we get to the missed field goal. Illinois gets stopped on 4th down at midfield here by the Blackshirts. We have another shorter field. Okay, again, I can go through all these notes. Basically, the bottom line is the defense played great. Time after time after time after time. Gave the offense short field time after time. The special teams helped with this early on in the game. We missed field goals. We had the laces out, or at least to the side, when it looked on a partially bobbled snap on one of our field goals. So I don't know if that's on Tristan, more on the holder. Okay. The offense has got to not look like a middle school offense at times, with all the false starts, with all the fumbles, with all the balls on the ground. When you get that many short fields, you should have like 1 million points, and I'm rounding down. Okay. We won the game. We won it by double digits. We won it on the road. We won it on a short week. It's harder to win on the road. It's harder to win on the road. on a short week, okay? And I do have a question here. Do we lead the FBS in turnovers? A fan tweeted that to me during the game. I've not had a time to double check that, but it just seems like it could be correct. Can somebody let me know in the comments below if we do or not? I'm just curious. I'll also double check it later on. All right, now Illinois' quarterback is having turnover issues of his own. He threw his 8th interception tonight. He now leads the country in throwing INTs. Okay, let's see what else is relevant here. It's basically everything I've already covered. Nebraska ends up winning the game, as we know. Okay, bottom line, we're 3-3. Bottom line, just about everybody I know said we go 6-6. We'll call it a successful season. Yeah, a lot of 7, 8, 9 win predictions. Okay, and I got chastised a little bit last week for saying, hey, don't give up on Nebraska's football season. I know how much work, how much time, how much dedication. I also know how people tend to overreact, okay? I also know how things can change from week to week. Like, I try not to be a prisoner of the moment. I'm a human being. I've got emotions. I try not to overreact from one game to the next. There are certain people who absolutely did, okay? And I know that happens sometimes. But I just felt it was too early to give up on Nebraska's football season. And personally, I never will, just so you know. We had the winnable game at Illinois. We're now 3-3. We won that game. We now have a bye week. We now have a bunch of winnable games coming up. And how dare I list out opponents that we might be able to beat? Because that was brought up to my attention as well. But it's part of, it's part of being an analyst, part of looking at what Nebraska might be able to do, wins and losses, going to a bowl. Here's what I know. Luke Gifford played a great game today. Nash Hutmacher played a great game today. Our defense got their swagger back today. We dominated the rush yards. Okay, when you compare our rush yards to their rush yards, we scored more points than they did and got the win. That's the most important thing. Okay, and the bye week, I think, is honestly coming at a great time. This team's a little banged up. It's beat up. We've got injuries all over the place. I think the bye week coming at a great time. I think we have winnable games coming up. I know I said it again. How dare I? Nebraska's 3-3. And forgive me for backtracking. Just think if Nebraska had won that Minnesota game, how we'd feel right now. I know, I apologize. My point is this. We have things to get better on. We have things to be excited and happy about. We were halfway to our goal of going to a bowl game. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Here are the questions I've got for you fine folks at home. Are you glad, if you're one of those who you didn't give up on Nebraska's season already? Number 2, Heinrich obviously needs to work on pitching the ball, but do you think it needs to become a priority as something that he works on during the bye week, pitching that ball on the option? I think it needs to be a priority. And kind of for fun, Matt Rule. I feel like he's been slacking on the lip licking a little bit later. Do we need to see a little bit more of that in the second half of the season? We can't be slacking on nothing. Details matter. All right. In all seriousness, check out CarrikerChronicles.com. All your football hopes and dreams will come true. Go Big Red. And always remember to throw the bug.